X-Acto blade holder. So this is another tool that I found just laying about that will also make straight cuts. And you can adjust it. You can also adjust angles on this. So there are lots of different tools that will help you cut straight lines. I have you get an X-Acto blade because it's the cheapest and it's pretty easy, but here's also an X-Acto tool. And they all make different blades, so if you are having a little bit of difficulty still cutting those straight lines, then here's another tool that you can hold on to cut your straight lines with. It's got a grip on it. And again, this is all I've ever really used, but if you want different tools to cut, you can find these X-Acto bevel cutters if you want. And some of these may be better for left-handed folks also. Okay. All right, but your Dexter mat cutter, anybody buy one of their own by any chance? Okay, all right. How much did you pay for it? Do you remember? Close to $30 is my guess, yeah. Okay, that's the only one you ever have to buy. It comes with its own blades, just a pack of 5. So this is a number 3 Dexter. You'll have to replace it, and I don't think you can buy Dexter blades locally. I don't think you can buy those cutters locally. Did you get it locally? Mm-hmm. Okay. So these blades you have to buy online. You just can't get them locally. Okay, 5 are not going to last you but your first couple of pieces. Okay, so as soon as you get through 1, 2, 3 assignments, depending on how much you have to practice. Okay, if you have to practice a lot, you wear the blades out. Okay, so with this second assignment, you should be on your second blade. Just put a fresh new blade in your X-Acto knife to make sure you get an easy, clean cut. Now, how many of you went and got these Z blades? The extra sharp ones. Pretty easy to use. Nice, clean cuts, yeah. If you're using the regular blades, it's just going to take you more cuts to cut through. Okay, they're just that less sharp. Okay, okay. These come with instructions, but the old instructions did not tell you the little trick to cutting and measuring exactly with this tool. So I'm going to give you that little insight today. And it's a little thing that you make with your own measurement mark on it. That's how you get a straight line. Okay, but we're going to cut bevel cuts today. What that is, it's an angle. Okay, I don't know what the angle is. I don't think it's 45 degrees. I'll look in my notes here and see if I can find it. But this is going to be required for your portfolio. Half of your portfolio presentation, this is just with your out-of-class assignments, is going to be mounted, okay, what you've been doing. Okay, so half of your assignments that are required for the portfolio should be mounted. The other half, you're going to do mats. And what a mat is this nice bevel cut. These are not straight, these are beveled, so that the contrasting color that's on the inside of the mat creates a nice presentation line around your drawing. Okay, on the inside I have it mounted. Okay, and then I have the backing. Okay, you guys did not order enough to do a mounting board. You're going to be mounting on foam core. Okay, and you're going to be creating a mat that comes in over top of your drawing about 1/4 of an inch on all sides. Okay. So your mat is going to lay on top of your drawing, on top of your artwork, like this. Okay, I've got 2 brown ones here, I'll show you. So you can see close up here at how there is a space between the edge of your artwork, okay, and the edge of the mat. Okay, that's called a well mat. And you might see those in the painting studio. Up there on the wall, you'll see a bunch of them. And then we have a plain old mat. And a mat is one that comes down and crops on top of your drawing. So you will have a mat that sits on top of your drawing like this. See that? Okay, it does not expose the edges of your drawing. Yeah. So that's what you're required to do, and the only reason I'm not having you do a well mat is because I just had you order enough mat board to be able to accomplish matting and mounting for your portfolio. Nothing fancy beyond that. Okay, so this is to teach you the skill of how to use this tool and cut an angle cut. Okay, and it's pretty simple. And we, in other words, you will be mounting your drawing on foam core, and then you will be cutting a mat to go over top your drawing. Okay? You will probably, depending on which dimension you're doing, or which orientation, vertical or horizontal, you will have to trim your drawing down a little bit in order to get the correct border sizes. So you take a look at your handout and let's flip to the part and we are on this page for mat cutting. There's a little bit of trick to loading the blades. There's a little bit of trick to all of this, okay? So make sure you get good notes. I didn't put everything in the handout. So, all right. So, according to what you already know how to do, where should I start?
Cut out the foam core with 1 inch on the sides, or if you're doing it's horizontal, so 1 inch on the sides and then 1 inch on top and 2 inches on the bottom.
Okay, that's kind of at an advanced place. I'm just talking about, I'm starting here, so what do you think I ought to do first? Measure the artwork. Okay, so everybody measure along with me, write this down and figure this out for me. So I've got a, whoa, I've got 4 3/8. You know what, folks? Do yourself a favor. When you tear artwork down or when you resize a larger piece of paper, and you know you're eventually going to have to mount it or mat it or frame it, tear to a solid inch. Okay, instead of like 4 and this is 4 3/8. Okay, so I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna round it off to the nearest straight line instead of splitting fragments. This is actually is 13 1/4, we'll say. wide by 11 inches high. Horizontal, 13 and a quarter by 11. Okay, now if you look at the window mat on the left-hand side illustration, that's got a bigger border on it than our mounting. So does anybody remember, I did mention how much we're going to add now to the dimension of the artwork for matted borders? Anybody remember?
It's an inch and a quarter, right?
Let's see if it's even in the handout.
This is 3 and a quarter and then 4 and a quarter.
3 inches, yeah. So it's, if you look up there in the wall, you're going to see all those done in that manner. It is 3 inches at the top, 3 inches at the side, and what do you think it is at the bottom? 4 at the bottom. Okay. Now that's the minimum size. Okay, so the size of your mat board and the size of your drawings, I think it's the vertical, it works out just fine. Okay, you have enough space to mat a vertical. But when it comes to a horizontal, I think you have to trim your drawing down a little bit so that you can get a 3 inch, 3 inch, 3 inch, and 4 inch border onto those mat boards. Okay? And it's okay if you don't crop your drawing down, okay, you don't trim your drawing down, just keep your drawing the same size it is, and then do I have those window mats sitting out there someplace? Here's one. Oh, they're both over here, okay. So it's okay if your window does all the cropping. Okay, and then underneath you got the rest of your drawing here. Okay, you don't have to trim it down. The only reason you would need to trim your drawing down would be to make sure that it doesn't stick out on the sides like this one does. Okay, that's kind of nice like that, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. All right then, what size is my foam core? What size is my mat board? To the 11 inches, I'm going to add what?
6. No, 7.
7, 3 at the top, 4 at the bottom. So that's going to be
No,
18. What's my horizontal? How much am I going to add to the 13 and a quarter?
6.
6. So that's going to be 19 and a quarter. Darn that quarter inch. Okay, so now I'm going to measure that out and cut my boards.
Some shoes.
Okay. I need to point something out. Okay, now I can cut so that I can crop into on top of this artwork just on the edges of the paper, or I can crop in closer. Okay, so if I wanted to crop in closer, I would just add this much to the inside dimension of where I'm going to cut my mat. I'm not going to cut my mat yet, but I've got some choices here. Instead of cutting exactly where that window, where the edge of the paper would be, I'm going to add a little bit of space to crop in on top of the edge of my paper. So when you have a print or an artwork like this, you have some choices about where to place your window. Okay? Okay. Okay, this piece of paper isn't quite straight either, so I'm going to have to go by measurements on either side. we're gonna go with this. Okay, let's try. I'm gonna do a 4-inch, 4-inch, and 4-inch. I'm gonna increase an inch just because I've got more space here, and then I'm gonna do a 5-inch at the bottom. And nope, I'm gonna do 4.5 at the bottom. I can get away with 4 3/4. Okay. So now I figured out what size mat I'm going to cut. And so first I'm going to practice just to show you how you decide how to adjust your blade. So I'm going to get my Dexter cutter out here, my blade, and I'm going to hold it like this. Okay? So you see the pointy part, that's where your thumb goes, and you're going to push in that direction. So think of that as an arrow and how you're going to push this. The heel of your hand sits right back here. So the steel is molded, it's probably aluminum, is molded to hold your right hand. If you're left-handed, let's see, you could probably manage to reverse this tool, put your blade in backwards, and push it with your left hand. Okay? Is anybody left-handed that might need to do that? Okay. So try just reversing what I do. If you want to come up and take a photo of me loading this for a left-handed person, anybody want to do that? It's very different than what I'm going to demonstrate. So if you want to see this loaded, do you all want to cut with your right hand or left hand? You tell me. It doesn't matter for you? Doesn't matter for you? You want to cut with your left hand? Come on up here, I'll show you how to do this with your left hand. Okay, take a picture of this. You see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, take a picture of that. Got it close up? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're going to load it like this. And you're going to tighten the screw here. And then you're going to check the depth, and you're going to hold it and push it like in this direction. So you want to take a picture of me holding it like this. Okay. It's a flexible tool. You can push it either way. Okay? All right. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to load, okay? So I'm going to push it this way. So you have a blade. This is the dull side. This is the sharp side. So the blade side, y'all see that? The blade side has to be loaded like this. If anybody wants to come up here and get a close-up of the video of me inserting the blade and doing this, please do so. So here is the blade inserted. Okay. There's a picture for you.
It's video.
Okay. Here's a picture for you.
Okay.
Anybody else see this? Okay. See the pointy part, and then the sharp part of the blade is going to be cutting the mat because you're pushing it. All right? So now we have to figure out what depth. Your mat board sits on top of it like this. So the blade is going to poke out and penetrate through the board. Okay? So we have to figure out how much. All right, now the next thing is this blade doesn't go straight up and down. The top part of the, ooh, that was cool. The top part of the blade has to tap back and touch the metal. Okay? Touch the metal. That'll put it at the correct angle. Okay, so you don't use this straight up and down. Okay, it always has to touch the metal right here. Okay? Touch the metal. Touch the metal right over here. Okay? Alright. There's a little slot that your blade sits in. So I'm not going to make it poke out very much. Sharp. Don't bleed. Don't poke yourself. And so this will tighten the device, this big screw knob here. So I'm going to insert and push. Now it cuts through part of the board, but it didn't penetrate it. So now I'm going to adjust it so that it pokes down a little bit more. Test it again. Now I can feel the tug or the drag on it. I'm going to look at my underside, and I still can't see. Punch the blade in, push it forward. We're trying to see, you see it's slicing the top part, but it's still not penetrating down to the bottom layers, okay? So I've got to adjust it even more. So this is getting that blade depth right. Too much and it'll break your tip of your blade off. So do it a little bit at a time. Okay, now that fully penetrated it, and I need for you all to look at this. To make sure that you see how much is poking out. It's not very much at all. So I'm going to adjust it a little bit more. You don't want a lot of the blade sticking through. And you have to use a consistent pressure. You can't be light with it and then really bear down and then let up on it. You have to have a consistent pressure to push through. So, it's hard to see. You see that blade tip? You can barely see it. See it? Yeah, not much. I mean, that's got a lot of drag to it, but that's not very much of a blade tip. See it? Yeah. Right there. Yeah. I might even try and detract that, pull that back a little bit more, just a tiny little bit. You can barely see it. Angles, it's right there.
Okay.
Right there. Okay, so I've tested it out. Here's another thing you want to do before you cut a mat. Practice. Down into the window. and check out where you are with the crosshairs as you approach. So here come the crosshairs. Okay. Here they come. And I'm not going to start, or excuse me, I'm not going to stop at the corner. I've got to cut past the corner a quarter of an inch. Okay, I've got to cut through the corner and past the corner up to about here. Okay? And then I can stop. See, nothing's moved. I walked away from it, but nothing is moved. So now I can see I'm at the crosshair. I'm gonna it's called an overcut. Okay? So now I'm done. Okay, you should have cut a straight line. Alright, move the T-square away. Now where I left off is where I'm gonna start. Did I cut all the way through it? Oh by golly, I did. Okay, if you didn't, then this is practice. Okay, you can't recut it. You can't stick this back in and recut it. There's no do-overs with this. You either get it right or you don't. Okay, so that's why I'm saying, you see all that mat board back there? Practice, practice, practice. Are you throwing away all your excess mat board? Keep it, it's practice. Okay, all right, so here's where I left off. And I'm gonna, again, start about a quarter of an inch before the corner. Okay. So I poke that in there, insert it, then you put the D-square up there. This is where most people can't figure it out. They put this, we know how to put the T-square up to the line now and get a straight line, but they can't figure out, now where do I put my dexter? Put the T-square over there, put your dexter, always put your dexter in first. Okay. Straight line device. Start looking for the corner. Okay. So far, so good? Okay. Put the dexter in first. I think I passed it.
This will be end of November is their target.
Okay. And the next one. Okay, so you guys know how to cut straight lines. That's a piece of cake now compared to this, so you will need some extra practice time. don't come in at your usual time and try to put the presentation together. It's not going to work. There we go. It should fall right out. Pass this around, you can look at the corners. This one I overcut a little bit because I drove too fast and went past the corner.
If you overcut, do you have to create a new one?
Depends on how much you overcut. Okay. Some of the issues that people have are not figuring out that the T-square goes up to the Dexter cutter. Put the Dexter cutter in first, okay? Some people hesitate and just want to cut those corners just to the point where they meet. It won't work. Your mat will stay stuck in there. It still has the paper fibrils holding the mat board together. Okay, you must cut past and separate. Okay, you must overcut. Okay, so you're going to see 3 smaller overcuts and then 1 whoops. I'm not going to make you do it over if you do it that far. But if you go past it that much, you've ruined the mat. Okay. Anybody want this one to practice with? Your hand went up first. Okay. So now we mount it and tape it all together. And I'm just going to tuck this blade back up in here because we're done with it. Remember where I told you the Dexters were?
This drawers.
Okay, cabinet's over there. And there's 3 in the drawer down there now. Questions? Anybody time how long that took me? So I've probably been doing this about an hour now. Yeah, but you know, talking and all that. So
The border for pictures, it needs to be 3 1/4 inch all around.
that'll look pretty. So this is how it's going to look. Let's put the mat over it. Okay. The reason I don't want to expose the edges of the print is because it's crooked on the paper. Okay. So now I make it look straight. Okay, I need to get my tape. I left it in my office. Do you see what I did? Did anybody see what I did?
You centered it and then you turned it over.
Mhm. Let's see if that worked. Nope. There we go. There are all sorts of variations to the system. We can really create some drama with the presentation and beautiful additions and enhancements to this. If you look at the over the sink, actually over the countertop, the third one, guy with glasses, you see the red edge to the mat? That's called a French mat. It's actually a red and blue edge. They're pieces of Canson colored papers that are cut in strips and then taped to the back with linen tape. We don't ever use masking tape because that's just something that'll yellow, become brittle within months, actually. And so all four sides of the mat underneath, we taped strips. Okay, and one edge came out a little bit further than another. That's the inexpensive way to do it. You can cut double and triple mats of contrasting colors. That's a whole lot of mat board that you're not going to see. You're only going to see a sliver of it for a color or value contrast. We can also buy mat board. This is called 4-ply mat board. 2-ply is half as thick as this. So we can buy 8-ply mat board. That's nice, thick mat board. You just adjust the size, and we've got mat cutters, and there are even larger professional mat cutters that cut perfect mats. And probably some of you are finding out that you can go over to Michael's and they'll cut it for 15 bucks. So you decide whether buying a blade is cheaper than paying somebody to cut it for 15 bucks. You can also buy and stack your mat board so that you can do 8-ply and 8-ply and really create some depth and drama to the presentation. So what you should try to do is keep the artwork from touching the glass or the plexiglass. If it comes in contact with the glass and the plexiglass, it will be an abrasive to the artwork. So when you see a window that's meant to keep the artwork at here's a cross section, at a lower level than the glass, okay? So that as the paper expands and contracts, yeah, then it doesn't rub up against the glass, rub the pigment off, and affect the artwork. So, okay. I'm going to get an eraser and get rid of any skid marks, pencil marks, etc. If you've got any skid marks on your black mat board that show up too much, there's an easy way to get rid of them. Some people prefer, again, to cut it on the reverse side. But what I do is I'll get a paper towel, get it wet, and wring it out so it's just damp. A damp paper towel that's clean, or a damp cotton cloth, okay? And then you lightly drag it along the mat where the black skid marks or scuff marks are, and it gets rid of them after it's dry. So now I can take off my temporary tape. And so now what I have to do is attach some polyester to the back of the window, and I'm going to use my clear tape for that. And then I have to attach the foam core mount to the window, okay? So that this flaps like that, okay? And that there's something here to protect the artwork, okay? So let's do the roll of acetate first, the Durlar. And I'm going to trim that down. I don't want excess stuck to this. So I'm going to attach the curl. And I've got my roll of clear tape here. The clear tape is what we're going to use to attach the Durlar to the mat board and the mat board to the foam core. So you want it tight, but not so tight that it's going to curl your mat. So we sort of stretch middle to middle. And you're going to have a larger piece, okay? Larger is not more difficult to cut unless you're a small person. You might have to reach a little bit further than you're comfortable. Okay, so we're done with that. You will need a piece of scrap foam cord for this. Okay, so there's a difference in level here between when I flap this over onto the table. I don't want to sit it. There are two different levels, two different thicknesses. See that? It's going to be difficult to tape effectively. So I want to prop it up so it's the same thickness as the foam core. So that's what I'm doing. I'm propping it up with scrap. Okay? And then I'm going to stick some mat board under this and we'll be all level. Okay, a couple of cross pieces on either side of the mat along the edge that joins the two of them together. Like this, half and half. Then I'm going to run a long piece along here, and I can stick another cross piece there, I think I will. Half on one side and half on the other. center and smooth out. And we'll cut off the excess here in a second. And then 3 more cross pieces. Okay. Redo the cross piece. That's it, except for the trimming. Okay, that's it. Name, assignment number, and back.